Hey, it's BK on the air here, just to let you know that this is a podcast rebroadcast of my live radio show that you can hear Saturdays 10 a.m. till noon Eastern on 100.3 FM and AM 1450 WBHF. You can stream it at WBHFradio.org or download the free Tunein app for all of your mobile devices. So let's get started. Let me just push this button here and... Okay. All right. Let's try this again. Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
Oh, how I love the summertime. Summertime, you get to see out the window here at the broadcast studios here at WBHF. We're located right down here on Wall Street near Main Street in downtown Cartersville, Georgia. We're not in some stuffy office building where you have to sit in a cubicle and sit in a studio. It's building locked, like you. That's kind of like the Star Cruiser Resort. I heard that was the main complaint about the Star Cruiser Resort down in Orlando, that they just had to, I don't know whether they shut down or curtailed it or because they lost millions and millions of money on it, because sure, you look like you're in a Star Wars, you're on a Star Wars cruiser and you're in this little room, but there's no windows. There's just four walls, and no matter how big it is, and there's just a few buttons on the wall and little controls and futuristic architecture. But if you still think you're stuck in some kind of cell or like a building with no way to see out, and you're trapped and makes you claustrophobic or something, you're not going to like staying there. So I think, and plus it was overpriced. I heard they priced themselves right out of existence. Well, like I said, it's not the case here. I get to see outside the window here at the studio. I get to see people walking by, waving, giving us the one finger, like we're number one here while I'm on the air. But it's me. It's BK on the air, your retro radio rocket man. I'm live here every Saturday from 10 a.m. till noon Eastern. And if you can't hear us on the radio, you can stream us from the website, WBHFradio.org, and you can hear me wherever you are in the galaxy. I've got so much to talk about today. But the first thing up that I want to talk about is this Sunday. Today's Saturday. And this Sunday is National Cinema Day. So I'm thinking about really taking advantage of that, because let's be honest. Movie theater tickets, they've had their problems in the past few years, what with COVID hitting them. And quite frankly, some of the theaters didn't return from that dark place. They went out of business. We had a theater chain very close to us down here in Cobb County, Georgia, just north of Atlanta, Regal Cinema. Just closed one of their locations down there, and I've seen other places close their doors, and it was hard for them to survive. One chain was able to show older movies at the height of all that nonsense going on in 2020 and 2021, and we were able to go see old films because there weren't really many new ones being released, and the ones that were new, they kind of held them over for as long as they could so they'd have some content to show. But they also showed classic films at the time. Alan and I both talked about that. We actually got to go see a few. Mrs. BK and I did with some friends. And we got to still go back to the cinema, because for me it's still an experience to go see a movie in a cinema, in a theater, a bona fide theater with the ticket booth and the concession stand and the curtains on the wall and the carpet and the popcorn smell and everything that's there. And you go in, you take your seat, and she likes to get the super seat, the plush seats that you can recline, and they're heated, and they don't vibrate, but I don't know. Some of them might. The ones we go to don't, but you get this. I like that sweet spot in the cinema, right in the center, not in the front and not in the rear, but right in the center of the cinema, in these relaxing, reclinable seats. So when we go, I want to be at that sweet spot to see the movie. But yes, you can't. If you haven't been back to the movie in a while, there's another excuse for you. This Sunday, tomorrow, as of our time of this show right now, is the National Theater Day, and you can go, or National Cinema Day, which is it? Theater? I think it's cinema. And either way, it's the day. Bottom line is, you could get a ticket for $4. That's the thing. And I think a lot of them are participating. There's got to be a place near you, because a ton of the motion picture of the cinema movie companies are doing it. They're participating in this. And it doesn't matter what movie it is. It could be a first-run movie, and you can still see it for $4 for the most part. But I think that we're going to, and Alan Sanders is here now.
Good morning.
Did you? Are you planning on going to the movies tomorrow? See something? You gonna have time? You gonna have an inkling or an interest to even go do it?
I think I told you. Did I tell you that my daughter is blackmailing me?
Oh no! Are you gonna go see it?
It's supposed to be a twofer.
Oh, you're gonna see two movies.
It's like if we're gonna see one, we've got to see the other.
But you're gonna
both.
You're gonna do both so it's gonna be $8, right? $4 times 2.
I don't know if we're gonna do it tomorrow, but we're supposed to do it.
Be the best day to do it would be tomorrow. That'd be a really good way to save money.
Are
you doing a Barbie Oppenheimer dual thing? Is that what you're doing?
A Barbie hopper.
You're going to do that?
We're going to do an Oppen Barbie. I said, wait a minute. I have no desire to see Barbie.
Right.
Susan has no desire to see Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Let's go to the movies. I'll go see Oppenheimer.
Right. Why not?
You go see Barbie. I'll see you in the parking lot when we're done. Why is that not a... Because we're not in the same theater. You're not going to talk to me.
You take the high road, and I'll take the low road. Now I'll meet you in the parking lot afterwards.
Right?
Boy, you struggled on that one.
Wow. I had to make it make sense.
I know.
And it still didn't. Wow.
I do like the throwback price. If there's a theater close by, that $4 price
well, at least you guys,
sure beats 15.
You guys are 18 in some places. You guys are at least doing that. Here's what I don't know if we're going to do it yet, but here's what I think we're going to do.
That's what's being discussed. Whether or not it
Nothing's
happens.
been finalized yet, right? Hasn't been chiseled
I'm at a
in
point
stone.
now where until I actually am in the theater, I have no designs.
So your butt is sitting in the theater. You have no idea what's going to go on,
It's
right?
just talk.
Well, Mrs. BK wants to see Mission Impossible, the new one with Tom Cruise, because now, as of last night, she's all caught up on all of them. She has watched every one of them over the past few weeks, the time that she's had between going to school and she's doing 2 schools, teacher and student. So she's having to take classes and teach classes. So when she finds that moment where she can go, I got a moment, I can watch a movie, and she's been watching the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible films. And I've been halfway watching them because I'm like, yeah, they're all right. I'm not a big fan of them. I did have one that I thought was a little better than the other one. Now I can't remember what it was. It was the one when they were in Dubai. I can't remember which one. I think it was the third one. I think it's the third one.
The one with Henry.
I'm not sure.
No, third one's not.
No, it was the one. No, he wasn't in this one. He was in the third one. J.J. Abrams directed the third one. But he produced the fourth one. So I think it's the fourth film that he produced but didn't direct.
Ghost Protocol?
Maybe that's it. I don't know. They're pretty formulaic. Talk about formulaic. Talk about watching something where I'm like, wait a minute. So it's a Mission Impossible film. We have to have the put on the fake mask. We have to have the fall down something, land on something, be tethered to something, and or the car chase that's shot the exact same way in every one of them. I said we can do every one, which is I understand that. But I'm not a big franchise lover of those. But here's what we may actually wind up doing. We may actually, if we do it tomorrow, if we do this theater day for $4, we may go to 2 different movies because she wants to see that, but I want to see The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I want to see that Dracula film because I'm really interested in it. Mm-hmm. I saw James Install from Geek to Me Radio's review. He liked it. It's tanking in the theater, though. It's just tanking, and I think it's for several reasons. Number one, they don't even have the name Dracula on it. I don't think people know exactly what it's about. And number two, why didn't they release it in October? It's a horror film.
I don't
it's
understand
Dracula.
that at all. Why would you not time
it's
it?
losing money. So it's like only in like one theater and one showing one day. So I mean, I have to be creative. But it's BK on the air. If you're going to go to National Theater Day, call me today. We'll give you the number when we come back. But when we do come back after this break, we'll hear from the Golden Rage of TV with Pat McCormack.
And now, these messages.
Hi, time for Timer, and time to make a week's supply of healthy after-school snacks. Now some weekend when it's raining and your mother is complaining because you're hanging around just twiddling your thumbs. Tell your mom that you've been itching to make something in the kitchen, and oh yes, the mess will be a minimum. But the thing that's going to please her is you make it in the freezer, and nothing could be easier to fix. Now just watch as I go through it. Really, all you need to do it is some kind of juice and just a few toothpicks. Okay, now take an empty ice tray and fill it up with orange juice or lemonade or pomegranate juice or whatever turns you on. Then cover the tray with plastic wrap. Carefully poke the toothpicks through the plastic, put it in the freezer, and in a few hours, presto, stacks of snacks. Don't wait until it rains before you try this nifty trick. You'll have a fun time making sunshine on a stick.
Fresh perked ground roast coffee. There's nothing like it. Or is there? Is there another way to get that ground roast look? That wonderful aroma? that delicious fresh perk taste. Ah, Taster's Choice. Freeze-dried as soon as it's perked to capture real ground roast flavor. Taster's Choice, regular and green label decaffeinated. Looks, smells, and tastes like ground roast coffee. Ah.
Now back to the show.
Oh, yeah.
Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. MacGyver debuted in 1985 and originally ran for 7 seasons. The show followed the adventures of Angus MacGyver, a secret agent who used his intelligence and resourcefulness to solve problems and defeat bad guys. The show's creator, Lee David Zlotoff, has said he got the initial idea for this series from his fascination with a Swiss Army knife. He was struck by the idea that a single tool could be used to solve a wide range of problems, and he decided to create a character who embodied that same spirit of ingenuity and improvisation. Along with Zlotoff, famed director John Rich, as well as famed actor-turned-producer Henry Winkler, all came together to form the basis of the series, which eventually got picked up by Paramount and ABC. In a 1989 interview with the show's star Richard Dean Anderson, Arsenio Hall said he had heard the word MacGyver used as a verb meaning to do the impossible, but there's also the word MacGyverism, still used even today in reference to someone creatively solving a problem. The word MacGyver entered the Oxford Dictionary in 2015, with the definition to make or repair an object in an improvised or inventive way, making use of whatever items are at hand. MacGyver's first name was a mystery for a long time. It wasn't until the 2016 reboot that MacGyver's first name was finally and solidly revealed to be Angus. This was indeed a beloved television show that captivated audiences. Even in reruns, the show remains a testament to the power of creativity and ingenuity. This is Pat McCormack with your Retro TV trivia from the Golden Rage of TV. You can also find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Golden Rage of TV and on Twitter at Golden Rage of TV1. And now back to BK on the Air.
MacGyver. I have a confession to make. I'm always truthful about everything on air. Right? Yeah. I'll be truthful about this. I never watched MacGyver. I don't know, I never got into it. When I would see it come on, I'm like, oh, I hear about this show MacGyver, and I've never watched it, but I don't think that I've seen one full episode of MacGyver before.
And I told you, I only watched a couple, just like randomly, just like, well, it's what's on.
Right.
Found out, that was kind of a fun show.
Right.
But I never made a habit of watching, so I've maybe seen 3 or 4. That's it.
But you've seen at least 3 or 4 complete episodes, and you liked it, I guess, when you watched it.
That's the crazy thing. It's a cool premise.
And
they make it work every week. You know what's going to happen. He's going to be caught in some room or in some place. He's like, hand me the pliers, some wire, and maybe a paper cloth, and I can make an airplane.
Right. How convenient that every time he needed the certain things to do it, it was there, which was good. That's it.
Well,
that was the show, though.
It made
That's
you
the
realize, like, oh, you can repurpose stuff.
But I guess they had to do research to make sure that it was at least plausible. Some of these things, I can do that, or someone has done that before, or they wouldn't do it. But
you can't hotwire a car with a pixie stick.
Talk about MacGyver could, though. We couldn't, but talk about formulatic to adhere to the formula. MacGyver did it. Another one that was completely, you didn't know the circumstances of the plot of the show, but you knew on The Incredible Hulk that he was going to Hulk out 2 times in the episode. One in the first half, and the very last half of the show, he was going to do it again, and it was going to be the end and the climax, and that was going to be it. So, and you knew that someone, And it is fun to foreshadow things because when as a kid, oh no, David Banner's in a bar. Oh no, these guys are picking on him. Oh no, I know what's going to happen. He's going to turn to the Hulk and mop the place up with him. And that was fun to see that and to know that was coming. So
you know what?
Yeah.
Talk about Rabbit Trail now. This reminded me of a conversation I just had with my guy who's my cinematographer. We're on a shoot. And I made the Peter Falk reference. I'm like, oh, one more thing. He goes, oh, you like Poker Face? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, that's Poker Face. I'm like, no, that's Columbo. He goes, what are you talking about?
What is Poker Face?
And I was like,
I don't
wait
know
a minute.
that.
I'm like, Columbo, the guy who, like, who did it at the beginning.
With the crumpled coat on, the detective guy?
He's like, no, I'm talking about Ryan Johnson's Poker Face. I'm like, okay, tell me about Poker Face.
Yes, tell me what you're talking
So
about.
I'm like, I swear to God, I said, it sounds like somebody is copying, at least at the premise, this idea of somebody who can tell that someone's lying or that they're getting to it and they're trying to get them to entrap themselves.
Yeah, that's Columbo.
He goes, I've never seen, I've heard of Columbo, but I didn't know what that was about. So I did a little research. I was like, okay, I want to look at what Poker Face is, and I come across an interview. Ryan Johnson, at the start of the pandemic, had never seen an episode.
The director.
The director.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Ryan Johnson, our guy we like. Knives Out.
Yeah.
He had, at the beginning of the pandemic, he said, I never watched any Columbo, and since I was stuck in my house, I binged every Columbo movie. And he said, and something
Good for
stuck
him.
with me. I wanted to create a kind of a detective that was based in that kind of a character.
Okay.
That's how two people having two separate conversations, and we're like, yeah, I go, just one more thing. You go, oh, yeah, Poker Face.
But based in the same thing, though, referencing the same thing.
Now
That's
we know
amazing.
why it was so similar, because Ryan Johnson watched Columbo and wanted to create a new show. So now I have to decide.
So is that his new show that's coming out, or is it out?
It's already out.
Oh,
it's
I
called
didn't know
Poker
that.
Face.
So
it's
he's based
on one of the streamings that we're not paying for.
Loosely based on Columbo, of kind of
in the
detective.
sense, let's say inspired by his binging of Columbo.
Well, the fact that it's got some roots in Columbo, and the fact that it's Ryan Johnson, that makes me want to watch it.
Exactly. So I asked my wife, I forgot the name of the streaming service. I'm like, it's Peacock. Like, do we have Peacock?
Okay, this is NBC. Okay.
And she's like, no. I'm like, crap. I want to see this.
Well, that dovetails with something else that I found. See how this works? I found out something about Peacock that's Halloween related yesterday.
Okay.
I think that what was the story? It was like 100 movies are going to be horror films are going to be available on Peacock through Halloween. They're like bringing all these horror films in now, new ones, old ones. I don't know what the mixture is,
but just making them available.
But Peacock
to stream.
is going to pop them in there and make them available. And
I like that.
I talked earlier before we went to a break about National Cinema Day Sunday, how I think Mrs. BK, if we do this, is going to go see Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, and I want to see The Last Voyage of the Demeter, the Dracula film about it's one chapter they took out of the Dracula novel about where they transferred him from his homeland to England on this ship, the Demeter, and it's a doomed ship, and they wind up and now all the movies and stuff. A little part of the film shows that, but it's only one little act of the film. Well, they made a whole movie about it now. It's called Dracula Meets Alien, because he's one creature aboard this ship, and he's going to get everybody, and it's like Alien. So that made me want to see it. So, and the trailers but I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I can't remember the last time. And I like the horror genre if it's done well, and I like the subject matter and the monster, whatever they use. I have not seen a horror film in the theater since I can't remember the last time I saw one, because there's just not been a lot of horror over the past few years. Let's just say that's made me want to go see it in the theater. Now, I think the last ones I've enjoyed were the Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser, but I don't know after that what horror film I've gone to see that I like.
Would you classify those as horror?
Well, the Mummy is a universal horror character, so I'll classify those ones more like Indiana Jones film. They're more action horror.
Yeah, I guess it's brush with horror.
Yeah,
you kind of brush
with you bringing a dead thing back to life, and it's a mummy. I guess it is a horror creature. At least that's how Universal always presents the mummy character. But I can't remember. And I missed that. I mean, in the 80s, I was always going to see, horror movies. Hey, let's go see the Friday the 13th. Let's go see Freddy Krueger. Let's go see blah, 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 whatever it was, whether it was good or bad. But I have not seen a horror film in the theater in a long time, and that's part of why I kind of want to see this in the theater. If I miss it, I'll stream it when it comes out. I'm sure I will. And it is made by Universal. It is a Universal bona fide horror film, but they are, bless their hearts, they are trying their best to restart the MonsterVerse. They tried with Dracula Untold. Luke Evans played Dracula, and it was a great movie. It was a great movie. It had an older vampire in it, which was talking to him, and it was Charles Dance that played him. You remember him from Game of Thrones and Godzilla and all these other movies that he was in. He played in Dracula Untold with him, and it was great.
He's one of those guys that even if the movie's dumb, he's
fantastic.
Great.
He is. So it had
remember Golden Child?
Oh, yeah. He was the only good thing about that. It had a post-credit sequence in it. They couldn't follow up on it because it didn't take off. So then they decided, okay, well we'll reboot the horror with the Mummy with Brendan Fraser, which was great. That those, and I even liked the third one. I liked all of those because I just like him. The third one is the weakest, but I thought it was good. And then they're like, well, okay, we're going to completely restart it, and we'll restart the Mummy with Tom Cruise. And that one came out, and I like a dutiful horror fan. I'm like, well, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to give it a chance. Terrible. It was a terrible Mummy movie. I mean, it was just, for no other reason. It's just every time I sat there watching it, I'm like, where's Brendan Fraser? Where's Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz? It would be so much better. Theirs is so much better. And I think and another reason I didn't like it is because it was written by Alex Kurtzman and the other screenwriter that I have not liked one thing they've written ever. So that failed, and it flopped at the theater. Well, then they released their next release, I think, in the horror genre in the MonsterVerse, called The Invisible Man, but it was on Netflix. But it was a Universal film, and it starred the what's the actress's name that was in Mad Men? She was the secretary in Mad Men, and she also played in A Handmaid's Tale, that TV show, that streaming series. Elizabeth, I can't remember her name, but she was phenomenal in it, and it was about a woman who was married to a scientist guy who became the Invisible Man, but he, in turn, was an abuser. He abused her, even when they were together. So showing back up invisible, that made it even worse. And it was phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, it was fantastic. I had to stop the movie because Mrs. BK goes, stop this, I can't watch it. It's too
too intense.
It's too intense. I said, that's the mark of a good movie, though, honey.
Yes.
So we stopped, gave her a moment to catch her breath, and we started watching again, and she watched it all the way to the end. It was fantastic.
I've only had to do that once with one movie.
Oh, you have
okay,
to,
I need a break. I need just a moment.
Tell me what it was when we get back.
All right.
Premiering Friday after Wonder Woman, it's the all-new Incredible Hulk. A radiation experiment has unleashed the ultimate mutation, turning David Banner into a superhuman beast whenever he becomes angered. Bill Bixby stars in The Incredible Hulk, premiering Friday at 9, 8 Central and Mountain.
The Dracula legend continues. Frank Langella is Dracula with Laurence Olivier. From Universal, rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent. Dracula. The greatest lover who ever lived, died, and lived again.
There's that sauce again.
Oh, yeah.
There's that sauce again.
Liven up your menu. Break out the boss sauce. Kraft barbecue sauce. Kraft blends 18 zesty herbs and spices into a rich, thick tomatoey sauce. Gives snappy flavor to all kinds of meat. Whatever. Whenever you want extra special tangy flavor, pour on what it takes. Kraft barbecue sauce. The boss sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Lighten up, Francis.
It's okay if you don't understand what he's talking about. He probably doesn't either. It's BK on the air on AM 1450, FM 100.3, and online using the Tunein radio app.
Yeah, we're back. It's BK on the air. Yeah, we may actually go see two different movies if we do National Cinema Day tomorrow. I may go see The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and Mrs. BK may go see Mission Impossible. I don't know what the subtitle of the new one is, but there's a new Mission Impossible movie out. Well, it's not really new now. It's been out for a little while. And I understand this Mission Impossible movie is part one of a two-parter. It's like they're splitting it up like the last Avengers film, and they're splitting it up like the last Harry Potter film into two different parts. So, yeah. But I tell you, some people are saying the Mission Impossible films are delivering that type of genre world better than the last few James Bonds are delivering. So I guess I guess if the new James Bond could be as exciting as the Mission Impossible films is what people are saying, maybe they would do a little bit better or whatever. But I don't know. And as far as Bond goes, and I know Alan doesn't know, I have no idea what's going on with the next James Bond. They're still tight-lipped. They're just as tight-lipped about it as they're not saying anything as far as actor, director, subject matter, or whatever. I mean, think about it. Even when they cast it, they're still 2+ years away from it even coming out. So they didn't even announced it yet.
Right.
So they're taking their own sweet time. Maybe it's by design. I don't know. But on this show right now, it's no secret. It's no secret mission. But it's always time that we flash the audience of the news, the weird, the strange,
and the bizarre.
And I've got the first news. From UPI, the Washington State Patrol said an off-ramp roundabout was closed when a tanker truck overturned and spilled across the roadway. Trooper C. Thornton, public information officer for the WSP District 3, said the truck overturned at the roundabout at State 225 and the westbound Interstate 82 off-ramp at Benton City. The trailer leaked red wine across the roadway, as he said on social media. No other vehicles were involved in the incident, and the driver was treated for minor injuries. The Washington State Department of Corrections, the Washington State Department of Transportation, correction is after the fact.
Only a little difference.
Was summoned to the scene for cleanup operations. Now, a truck carrying a whole ton of cheese was diverted just in case there was a distraction of some kind on its way to that location to that wine accident. So, yeah, we didn't have a worse accident or even a better one. I don't know.
Guess what? I've got the next news. This from UPI, a Swedish man participating in a contest organized by the Disgusting Food Museum.
Is there such a thing? Wow.
Apparently so.
I know a few things I'd put in there.
Ate 13.85 ounces of fermented fish in 1 minute, earning him a Guinness World Record. The Disgusting Food Museum in Malmö organized a speed eating competition for surströmming, a traditional Swedish delicacy consisting of fermented herring that has been salted just enough to prevent it from rotting. The smelly fish is famous for causing vomiting from the smell alone. The biggest part of the challenge will be to not vomit during the attempt over actually eating a large amount in a short time, a museum representative told Guinness. Vomit buckets were placed nearby during the contest, which was won by the Swedish man Sune Valentine Norlin, age 71.
He's like, I don't have taste buds anyway. I've lost all sense of smell and taste.
13.85 ounces, and the stipulation kept it down.
Wow.
The museum spokesperson hailed Norland for having astonishing focus and an ironclad stomach as well as tenacious spirit. Norland detailed his eating strategy to the Sydsvenskan newspaper. You've just got to swallow it. You just have to swallow it.
So had he would have lost.
He would have lost.
Wow.
He had to keep it down.
Earlier this morning, you were talking. No one, they didn't hear it if they weren't listening to your show. But you had talked about eating eggs, and you liked your eggs a little runny with egg gravy. You know, the yellow stuff or whatever.
I love having.
And I like that too. Yeah. I mean, I'll dip whatever's near it, like a little piece of toast in it, and sop it up with sausage or something like that. But I can only do it alone, away from a certain somebody, because if she gets any sight of that or anything like that, stains clothing, and I don't like my clothing getting. I don't like her projectiling on me when I do that. But I do like that though. It's really, it's really good because I don't think I can eat the fermented fish though.
Yeah, I
don't. If I don't have to do that, I'm not going to do it.
I got to tell you my story real quick.
Your story. You got a story.
The only movie that was so intense.
Oh, that's right. Your movie that you did. What?
I know we're in the middle of our things, but just so we don't forget. Did you ever see Training Day?
No.
With Denzel Washington?
Nope. I know the movie you're talking about, but I've never seen it. Who's in that with him? Is it Ethan Hawke?
Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
There is a scene. I had to pause and get up. I'm like, okay, hold on. I just
really.
There's
you did
so much tension right now.
Really.
I had to move. I was
and
like,
you know it's a movie.
And I knew it was a movie.
Wow.
Obviously,
that says a lot.
It's so good.
Can you kind of sort of tell me what it?
No, I don't want to ruin
about?
it. I just will tell you.
Is it
Ethan
involving?
Hawke was in a situation where I was like,
Are they undercover
I would have
cops
just had
or
a heart
something?
attack. The situation he was in, if I was in his shoes, I would have died from a heart attack. I would have had a stroke. I was something. It was just like my body would have shut down in the situation he
So
was
you
in.
said if you were in his shoes,
stress.
it didn't have something to do with feet, did it? Because that makes you pass out.
No.
Oh, okay, not that.
But
All
I'm
right.
telling you, the direction behind this, the scene, the acting, I can't believe you've
So
never seen
it's a
Training
good
Day.
movie?
Phenomenal.
Other than just that
you
scene?
you like Denzel Washington. You like
Yeah.
you like the Equalizer
Yeah.
movies, right?
So is it a cop law enforcement undercover type movie? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Well, basically, Denzel Washington is training a rookie on his first day, joining this part of the task force.
Oh, okay.
It is truly training day for him. He's been a police officer, but he's joined this homicide unit. Dude.
Oh, so Anton Fuqua directs
Antoine-
it.
oh, it
so he
is
is the
so,
director.
so
Tom
good.
Berringer's in it. Eva Mendes is in it. Okay, here it is.
If you've never seen
Interesting.
Training Day,
Never seen
treat yourself to a
2001. All right,
if
I'll
you
put that
watch
on my
it
list.
with Mrs. BK, be ready for her to go. Okay, pause it. Pause it. So let me know when you've seen it.
Training Day is the
and I
movie
will-
that had a scene that was too intense for you for a second.
Yeah, when you
Wow.
see it, we'll talk about the scene.
Okay, good. That's interesting because I know it was Invisible Man.
And
for
it's
her.
not like gore. It's not. It's
Right. It's just
the
intense.
Tension.
Yeah.
It's so intense. You're just like, I can't breathe. I'm like holding my breath. Yeah.
A movie in the 80s did that for me. I didn't leave the theater, but the tension was very high when I was watching The Untouchables, and you know the scene I'm talking about with the baby carriage
Yes,
on the stairs.
It's similar.
Brian De Palma can do that. He's the builder of tension. He directed the first Mission Impossible movie, so he's able to build that. Oh my goodness, I can't take it anymore. Hurry up and have a resolution here. I got the next news. The owners of a sunflower field in England are pleading with visitors to stop stripping down to take nude photos in public view. Now, I got something to add at the end of this because I don't understand. Siblings Sam Wilson and Nett Petley, owners of Stoke Fruit Farm on Hayling Island, said they had to put up signs asking guests to refrain from public nudity after 6 incidents of naked photo shoots occurred since the sunflower field opened to the public last month, including 3 incidences in a single day. Wilson and Petley said they don't want to ruin everyone's fun, but the nudity has really become a problem. The pair said visiting families have complained about their children witnessing incidents of nudity. So, okay, here's my question. Nude photos being taken in front of a sunflower field or in a sunflower field. Am I missing something? What's that got to do with it? Is there a connection between nudity or nude photos and sunflowers that I don't know about?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and that doesn't mean anything because we're both in our 50s now. So if we're not aware of it, that doesn't mean it's not a thing because we don't know about some stuff. Because it's new stuff, we don't know about some of these things.
Yeah,
so I'll have to look that up.
My question would be, are they worth looking at?
Well,
'cause my experience has been no.
Well, the one time I went to a nude beach, I didn't see and
it's not like the movies.
I was one of the ones. I was one of the ones that had no business being nude on the beach, and I didn't do it. So I'm like, no, I don't. And then again, if you're on a nude beach and everything looks like it should be there and it's pleasant, how long before it gets boring and old?
Right.
It's like, okay, everybody's nude. I'm gonna leave now. I don't get it. So I don't get the sunflower thing. If you know what it is, try to let me know or shoot me something or call me later on the show.
My baloney has a first name. It's O-S-C-A-R. My baloney has a second name. It's M-A-Y-E-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day. And if you ask me why, I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer had a way with B-L-O-G-N-A.
Oscar Mayer, the first name in Bologna.
How's that? Oh, I wish I were Oscar Mayer Weeder. Dennis Troy, I want to be. If I were Oscar Mayer Weeder, everyone would be in love with me.
The taste kids love and a resealable pack. Oscar Mayer, what more could you wish for in a hot dog?
Oh, I wish I were Oscar Mayer Weeder.
Hey, we're back. It's BK on the air here on AM 1450 and 100.3 FM WBHF. I do turn it into a podcast after I'm off the air every Saturday, so You can find me on a whole YouTube channel for BK on the Air and on Spotify and on SoundCloud. So those 3 different places. If you want to check out the show that sounds a little different without the local commercials, but added in classic commercials and music bits and silly bits and little Schoolhouse Rock things and commercials you might remember or little snippets here and there, check out the BK on the Air podcast. But we're not through with flashing the audience.
No,
yet, are we?
No, because I have the last one. I've got the last news. Yep, according to this, the UPI, we've got a Pez-obsessed New Jersey man and a collection.
I had some Pez, but I don't think I ever collected them. Did you ever really
I never
get big into
collected the
it?
Pez heads.
Yeah, I had a few growing up, but I wasn't burning to go, I got to have a Pez,
What's
Mom.
the next one?
I can't get...
According to this, New Jersey man's collection of 5,548 dispensers has earned him the Guinness World Record for the largest collection of candy dispensers.
These collectors really go big, don't they?
Go big, go home.
That's why.
Brian Trauman told Guinness World Records his Pez collection began when he found a bag of dispensers from his childhood at his mother's home back in 1999. Quote, I had a bag of about 100 in my closet at my mom's place, and my mom decided it was time for her to reclaim that space. I had to decide whether to throw them away or keep them, so I kept them. And I decided, well, I'll just get the rest.
Okay,
Little
sure.
did I know what that would entail. Trauman said he started out by getting some cheaper dispensers off of eBay before moving on to the more rare and expensive items. He said several more Pez dispensers came as gifts from friends and family. He said, my sister gave me a Yoda Pez to help me study for the bar exam. There were others along the way. The collector said some of the dispensers in his North Caldwell home have been valued at more than $10,000.
Crack open my neck and eat candy out of it, you will. Yes, yes.
Oh, we got a Pez alert. Pez alert.
3, 2, 1, fire! The Cocoa Martian Pez Space Trooper.
Look, he's on the moon. He's on Mars. And it's always handy when it's time for Pez candy. Just fill him with the Pez candy refill. Gee, he's fun. Have one.
And now the greatest free offer ever. 2 free gifts. The Cocoa Martian Pez Space Trooper and the Pez Candy Refill. Yours absolutely free when you buy Cocoa Marsh. They're attached only on Cocoa Marsh. You know how good chocolatey Cocoa Marsh is in milk and ice cream.
It's real delicious. 'Cause it's real chocolatey.
So don't wait. Be first to get these 2 free gifts. Cocoa Martian Pez Space Trooper and Pez Candy Refill at your store now.
Yeah, so I never collected Pez, but hearing that there, that would maybe want to rush out and do it because it's delivered with a sense of urgency, just like a civil defense duck and cover thing. Go out now and get your Pez, and along with it, put books over your head because we got missiles on the way in from Cuba.
Just now discovered we have got monster dinosaurs in downtown New York.
They certainly had a cadence to their voice back then,
It's
didn't
almost
they?
like you can't take it seriously today. But that's how they did it.
I don't think I would have taken it seriously then, but you could see that commercial. I'm actually going to post it on BK's on the YouTube channel and check it out. So it was a thing in the 50s. It was a thing. Well, that was a world record for that guy, right? Wasn't that?
Yes.
Didn't you say it was a record?
It's a Guinness Book of World Record.
Well, I got another record here as well that I want to tell you about.
Okay.
There's another record. This is kind of a newsflash leftover from Fox 5 Atlanta, right here in our own backyard of Georgia, the state of Georgia. Georgia Superfan awarded a Guinness World Record for the largest Batman memorabilia collection. Holy Peach State Batman. When it comes to Batman, there's no bigger fan of the Cape Crusader than a man in Fulton County, right in Atlanta, and he's got a Guinness World Record to prove it. Brad Ladner owns an amazing 8,226 individual pieces of Batman memorabilia, making his collection the biggest ever. He started collecting 35 years ago with Batman comics and then eventually moved to collecting toys and statues. The Fulton County man told Guinness that his most prized possession is a Batman Sanity statue, which features the hero and many of his supervillain nemesis. Other rare pieces in his collection are a Batman Camel cigarette box made for the European market, and a 1989 costume continuity binder from the 1989 Batman movie with Michael Keaton. Quote, things from movies and media are displayed and organized by the brand, so Batman 66 stuff is together, Batman 89 movie stuff is together, and animated stuff is together, unquote, Ladner said. He said that a lot of his collection comes from stores, but he spends a lot of time digging through eBay. Quote again, I had a database where I coded it to search multiple eBays across multiple countries. Almost instantly, I could find items that were really only ever released in foreign markets, unquote. While Ladner thinks it's cool to be recognized for his massive collection, and this is a note for all collectors to take heed of, he says it's important not to let a hobby control your life. So
we might know one or two people.
I have seen some people get a little out of control with it. It's like, should I pay my electric bill or buy those comic books?
But there's a classic toy from my childhood, new in a box.
Do that. So yeah, so you gotta don't spend more than you can afford. I mean, even when if you like the lottery,
does that go for anything?
Yeah,
you would think.
Yeah. With me. And I learned it the hard way when I was younger. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, had my first job or whatever, my second job. And I had to find out, because by then I had a car. I'm like, oh, wait, now there's a new equation here. I have to buy gas. And I have to get the oil changed. I have to do this. I have insurance now that I have to pay for. So that one time I got in trouble, and I said, I don't have enough gas to go to work, Mom. She's like, okay, I'm going to help you out this one time. And by the way, you're working now, so this is a loan. So when I give you this money to fill up your tank so you can go to work, that's fine. But when you get paid, pay me back. And then what's left over, you got your money. So just budget better. And guess what? I budgeted better because that's where I learned my lesson.
Oh, she didn't charge you interest?
No, she didn't do interest because we were family.
Nice.
We were family. That was good. So she could have, and that would have taught me interest because I didn't know what interest was. Like, wasn't it sobering to you growing up when you found out, at least with me, I'd heard the term income tax before, but then again, I got my first couple of paychecks from my first job, and I'm like, oh, I make so and so an hour, so I should be getting this much. I got my check, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is nowhere near what I thought I was going to get paid,
right?
And I didn't have any overtime. It was just straight, sometimes not even 40 hours. I had like 35 hours.
Right.
I'm like, what's going on here? And Mom goes, that's called income tax, and this is how it works. And I asked the stupidest question, but it was the most obvious question for a teenager that had no idea what was going on. I said, but can I opt out of that?
Can I opt out?
Is there a way that I could go, I don't want to pay that. I'll just, I don't want to do that. She's like, no. People do that, but they usually pay the price for it later. Yeah. It's not illegal opt-out.
You can do that for a short period of time.
It's not a legal opt-out. It's more of an illegal. So yeah, that was a awakening that I had.
I don't know if you've seen it, but it's gone around social media a lot. There's a video, kind of a meme of the family playing Monopoly, and this little kid, he's probably like 7 or 8 years old boy, and he lands on one of the cards that says, pay improvement taxes for all of your properties. He's like, I don't have enough money. He starts crying, and the mom's like, but you got to pay your taxes. I hate taxes. And he just starts crying.
Good, kid. Remember that.
Like, there's a lesson learned. That's why you play Monopoly.
Monopoly taught me, not knowing it, but at the time, Monopoly taught me a lot. I learned a lot from the game Monopoly, and a lot of people have. I
learned how cutthroat it can be.
The other thing I learned about it is never play it with some of the same people that wind up really taking it personally when you win. Because when I play Monopoly, I'm sure you play it the same way. When I play Monopoly, I play it to win. Because isn't that the reason you play? I play it to monopolize the board.
I like to think of most contests, someone's supposed to try to win.
Right. So on the first roll around the board, everything I land on, I buy. Everything, even if it means running out of cash.
Right.
Because that's kind of the way you do it. The old days, I'm like, I don't want that. That's not a great property. I'll keep rolling. Yeah, and then keep rolling. I keep rolling. I only want these properties.
Right.
Those are the ones I'll build up. No, when I play Monopoly, people wind up hating me, not because I'm a bad person. It's because that's the way I play. And then we have everyone else playing like, well, you're just playing. You're just mean. I'm like, I'm not mean. I'm monopolizing.
No.
Look at the name of the game.
I'm not mean. I'm a tycoon. You know what? The way you're supposed to play by the rules, which I never knew, if you choose not to buy a property,
Doesn't it go up for auction?
You're supposed to auction it. Everything's
Is that
supposed
in the
to
rules?
be yes.
Okay, good. Then we didn't do that. I'll do that from now on.
Because the whole idea is, unless you want a 30-hour game, is you
Right.
want that property picked up as fast
And
as
I've
possible.
played some marathon
And if you
Monopoly
choose not to buy it, then everybody can say, "Well, I'll pay $5 for it." You don't get to then bid on it. It's everybody else.
And if no one else bids on it, you get it for $5.
Right.
That's
Well,
great. Yeah, I'll try it. I'll start doing it that way. That's great.
Everybody else has to bid, and then what's great is like, oh, you landed on a property I want because I've got one of the other colors. You can end up paying more for it.
Right. And you can wheel and deal in Monopoly if it's your turn. Go, hey, I'll trade you this for this.
There's nothing wrong with haggling.
You want this for that or whatever, and I'll remember that. There's no free parking. People would usually take what's paid in the community chest and the other thing and put it in the middle of the board, where if you land on free parking, you get this big pile of cash.
Yeah.
I do not play it that way because life is not that way. Free parking just means you're safe for right now. That's great. You
Although
get to
some
free
people
park.
win the lottery.
True, but that makes it too easy, I think, that way. I'm like, no, let's not. And that's not in the rules. That's an added rule.
Right.
That's not true. So I don't play it that way. So usually no one, I like playing Monopoly. I wouldn't play it all the time now,
Yeah,
but
I
I always
used to
liked
like
it. But I can't find anybody that'll play Monopoly with me that won't hold a grudge for a year and a half
Right.
after the game is
Flip
over.
the board in the middle.
It's like, it's just a game. These aren't real houses. These
You
aren't
didn't
real
lose
hotels.
real money.
Yeah, you didn't. But this will teach you what it's like, though.
Sure does.
Because that's great. Monopoly. I love board games. Wish I could play some more of them. It's BK on there. We'll be back.
I made $50,000 in the stock market today. I had twins. I went to the poor farm. I'm on Millionaire Acres. That's life.
The game of life. The game of life. You will learn about life when you play the game of life. First you start out with 2,000 and a car.
I got a car.
You got a car. Then you may go straight to college just to get a lot of knowledge.
Harvard.
Or to business if you think you'll go as far.
I'll be a star.
You may go far. The game of life. The game of life.
Pay me. I'll get revenge.
You'll get revenge.
I got revenge.
Got revenge. Milton Bradley makes the best games in the world. So play the game of life.
That's life.
Parker Brothers kind of fun brings people together.
Delayed. Monopoly's been bringing people together for almost 50 years. That's how long we've been wheeling and dealing together, building hotels together, and going to jail together.
Corner the market in utilities. You can't lose. Share a smile and your day seems a whole lot better. Parker Brothers kind of fun brings people together.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
Here are some words of wisdom from Mr. Know-It-All.
Hey, we're back. It's BK on the air here. Thank you, newsman Mike Garcia, for coming into the studio to tell us about new versions of Monopoly that we hadn't even heard of before, thanks to him and his kids.
Right.
But
We're
yeah.
not just talking themed boards, but
Yeah, they're changing the rules
Some
and
rule
stuff,
changes
yeah.
based on newer boards.
I think that's a game where I just want to keep it the way it was, just have a different themed board. Because you say you got the Star Wars and I got the Marvel Comics. To me, that was a gift to me. I got that for Christmas a few years ago.
I mean,
and that's
we have
just
a
the one
classic, normal, regular board, like
Yeah.
regular Monopoly, and then I've got
people went away from playing it and started just playing it on their computer. They'd all sit around the computer and play it or play it remotely. I'm like, that's fine, but some things just aren't the same. Some things I like the social part of getting together,
Right.
sitting at the table, having
Now-
something to drink with the board and everything. That's kind of fun.
Playing
just to do it
online
that way.
does help when you don't have to get at the mess and the cleanup and the adding and the subtracting.
Yeah.
On the flip
Yeah.
side,
if that's the only way you can do it, yeah.
On the flip side, it also knows whether you've got the money you need.
Yeah,
or
you
not.
you can't. There's no cheating
You can't
in
cheat
that
the
one, which is
computer.
fine. Or I want to be the banker. Can I be the banker? You can trust me. I'll be the banker.
Yeah, it's like the old joke. Like, how am I supposed to make any money in fast food if I don't run the register?
Or a department store or Kmart or something.
You put me on
You're
the
not putting
fryer
you
for.
on the
I
register.
can't make money making
No,
fries.
Yeah,
I need
you
to be on the
steal
register.
fries though. I would have rather worked the fryer because I could have got free food. Give me a French fry. Give me another French
Did I
fry.
spill that? I guess
That's
we don't want to throw that away.
What's the second rule on the floor? Just like 2 seconds at home, but a fast food restaurant, it's like nuts before it hits the floor. You better get it.
If I'm in a public place, there is no 5-second rule.
Not now. It just never was that.
And if
way.
something's sticky, there is no rule.
No,
if
that's
it's
true.
something sticky, it doesn't matter. Something sticky.
Because what is one of the worst places? One of the worst places to me would be every time I go into a movie theater, it's never not sticky. It's like the floor of a theater.
Drop?
It's like, I understand maybe some candy or something, but it just feels like another world
It's
down
like
there.
someone spilled a soda and no one bothered to clean it up.
It's every time I go back. Did you ever mop in here at all, or did you just go over it with a broom?
Did it occur to you?
It's like you just mopped, but it's still sticky. I saw you clean the theater up just now because you made me wait. It's on this day in history. Today is August the 26th. Let's do a little on this day in history. Today in 1930, Leonidas Chaney, an American actor.
Lon?
Oh, Lon. Yeah, Lon Chaney. Man of 1,000 faces. He died at 47 on this day in history, 1930. Not very long after doing
younger
his
than
movies.
both of us.
Yes, very much younger. 1968 on this day in history, Hey Jude, single released by the Beatles in the United States, Billboard Song of the Year, 1968. Billboard's 10th biggest song of all time in 2013, they called Hey Jude. So it was a big mega hit for the Beatles. And what was that rumor I heard? Was it true about Hey Jude? It was supposed to be Hey Julian for John's son, but they just changed it to Hey Jude because it was easier to say or sounded better musically or whatever. So it was devoted to him, I thought. That's what I heard.
I have no knowledge.
Today in this day in history, August the 26th, 1973, the number one on the Billboard chart 50 years ago was by a group called Stories. That's the group called Stories. I think they were a one-hit wonder, I think. The song was called Brother Louie. And if I sing the song, you'll remember it. It goes, Louie, 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 Louie.
Oh, yeah, I know that song.
That's it. That's the song, 50 years ago, number one on the charts.
And that's the name of the group is called The Stories?
Not The Stories, just Stories.
Just
not the word the at the
That's
beginning.
why they failed.
Yeah.
You needed
That is why they failed. 50 years ago, what were the top 5 television shows 50 years ago on television? I'll start from number 5, and we'll go up to number 1 right quick, only because it was 50 years ago, and we're talking about 1973. This week in history. Number 5, one that has probably my favorite music theme of a TV show ever, and we talked about it a few weeks ago. Hawaii Five-0 was number 5 in 1973. Number 4, another show with a catchy music theme. It actually had a movie, then they turned it into a TV show, and the song of the movie was turned into an instrumental for the show.
MASH.
See, from those clues,
you did.
You can
You
get
gave
them.
me
I
the
didn't
right
give you really
context
great
clues.
clues, though. They were kind of vague, but yeah. Number 3, it was released. The theme song to this show was released as a single. It was written by Quincy Jones. You know who that guy is. And it wasn't a big hit, I don't think, in the radio, but everybody knows this theme when they play it. It's the theme to Sanford and Son. It was the number 3 show.
Sanford and Son.
The single of that show, the music is called
Quincy
The
Jones-
Street Beater is what that song is called.
He produced it, or
he wrote it?
He wrote it?
He wrote that theme to that song. It's just the catchiest little goofy synthesizer song
it's great.
that you've ever heard. 1973, it was the number 3 show. And it's a whole single. The actual theme runs about 4 minutes long. I mean, it's a 45. It's a little long. I might play it one day on the air.
Got a funky jazz. It's funk
the
and
synthesizer
jazz.
sound that ow, 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 ow.
Because they start doing the whole thing on the guitar.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
middle.
The end theme is that way.
Waka waka
It goes
on the
into
guitar.
end. Number 2 show in 1973, 50 years ago on the top 5. A movie about a family in the 30s during the Depression.
Oh, Waltons.
The Waltons was number 2. Catchy theme to the Waltons, written by Jerry Goldsmith. So there's a movie composer that worked in television as well. And I don't think it was ever a hit on the radio, but the number 1 show in 1973 had a theme song that I think if you've never seen the show, when you hear the theme, you know what it is from the first bars. It doesn't even open with music. It opens with someone's voice singing. And the first line he says in the theme song to this show is,
Boy, the way Glenn Miller played.
All in the Family.
Songs that made the hit parade.
Yep.
Guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days.
Those were
all
the
in the
days.
family. And then Edith comes in screaming. And she gets so mad, Mrs. BK gets so mad because it was on there. They happened to be flopping around Pluto TV, and All in the Family was on. I started watching it, and she goes, "Oh, no, you're going to watch it?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to watch it." So I'm watching it, and I'm like, you realize it's an episode from 1974, and we're watching Edith and Archie run around. I'm like, again, honey, we are both right now older than they are right there. She goes, no, I don't believe you. So I said, look it up.
Mhm.
She did. I'm like, yeah. We don't look and act as old.
No,
but
people
we're older
aged
than
faster back then.
They did. What was number one in the box office in 1983 on this day in history, August the 26th? 40 years ago. It's a Rodney Dangerfield movie.
Back to School?
And it's that was later. That was his next big movie, and it was a bigger movie than this one, but this is actually my favorite Rodney Dangerfield movie, Easy Money. Easily my favorite. Joe Pesci, first thing I ever saw Joe Pesci in. He is so funny in Easy Money. My dad said, you got to watch this movie called Easy Money with Rodney Dangerfield. I watched it, loved it ever since. It is so funny. And today, on this day in history, in 2004, do you remember Laura Branigan, the singer from the 80s? It's on Gloria. And The Night, or whatever, I Love the Night or something. She had some big pop hits in the 80s. She died on this day in history of an aneurysm at 52.
Mm-hmm.
She passed away. I thought she was very pretty, too. Laura Branigan. We'll have some birthdays, too, when we come back, and I'm going to tell you what national day. And I try to mesh the national days that I choose to put on the list together to how they can be celebrated together. And it's a bit of a stretch on this one, but I could make it work. So you'll have to hear what I'm talking about when we come back. And more stories. I got an Atari 2600 coming back story when we come back. It's BK on the Air. We'll be back.
Those were the days.
Brought to you by Best Foods, makers of Skippy Peanut Butter, Golden Griddle Pancake Syrup, Mazola Corn Oil, Mazola Margarine, and other fine products.
Sugar. My kids eat too much sugar. I'm in the same boat.
Well, if less sugar is what you want, just switch from your peanut butter to nutritious Skippy.
Oh, Annette, there's no difference in peanut butters.
Sure is. No peanut butter is better for kids than nutritious Skippy. And of all the leading national brands, only Creamy Skippy has half the added sugars.
Half the added sugars? That's great.
Tastes great too, Mom. Yeah.
For good nutrition, no peanut butter is better.
Then Skippy.
Right, Skipper.
Just last night, I was lost in the jungle with Pitfall Harry, surrounded by giant scorpions and man-eating crocodiles.
Well, Harry and I just grabbed the van, swung through the trees, and over the tar pits and found the jungle treasure. It was really neat.
If you haven't met Pitfall Harry, you're missing the year's most incredible video game adventure. Pitfall for the Atari 2600 and in television.
Since I met Pitfall Harry, no other man will do.
Pitfall, designed by David Crane for Activision.
Yeah, a little Pitfall Harry video game for the Atari 2600. I played that for a reason, so just stick with me, and I'll tell you what it is as we move on through the next story after we get done with birthdays and national days of. By the way, the little boy you heard talking at the beginning of that clip there for Pitfall in the early 80s, that was Jack Black.
No.
In that Atari commercial.
No.
Certainly was.
No.
Jack Black.
I refuse to accept that.
And I'll show it to you at the break, and you see his face, and like, that's little Jack Black in an 80s Atari commercial. Little Jack Black. Was he ever little? He was small, but I don't know if he's little. Birthdays on this day and today, which is August the 26th. Jim Davis. It's Jim Davis's birthday, American actor. He was Mr. Ewing, Jock Ewing in Dallas. You remember Jim Davis? He used to do the Winn-Dixie Beef People commercial for the Winn-Dixie grocery store. Born in Egerton, Missouri. He died in 1981. I think while Dallas was still on the air, obviously. He did pass away, and I think they addressed his death of Jock Ewing in the show Dallas.
The Beef People. That's not a name you just pick up. Took Winn-Dixie years of experience and a lot of dedicated people to earn that name. People who know just about everything there is to know about beef. So when they tell you WD brand, U.S. choice T-bones and sirloins are about the best steaks you can eat, you can believe it. They're the Beef People.
Today is Chris Pine's birthday. American actor, Captain Kirk in the new Star Trek series.
Guy.
Our buddy Brian just watched Dungeons & Dragons, said it was a fun movie with him in it. Just, it's a fun romp. You know what you're going to expect.
It's available to stream now.
And it was successul, too. I think for what they spent on it,
right.
they made some money. And today is Macaulay Culkin's birthday today from Home Alone. Would you like me to tell you how old he is today?
Isn't he 40?
Go a little higher.
Well,
not much higher, but go a little higher.
Okay, I meant 40s, so I guess like 42, 43?
43. He is 43 years old.
Can I do that? Can I do it?
Sure, go ahead. You know that he's 43 years old. Some of these child actors, I know their ages now, and I'm like, he's how old? What? And it's always National Something Day. You don't believe me? Go to On This Day in History or On This Day or National Day of, and you'll find out. It is always National Something Day. Today is, here's 3. Today is National Cherry Popsicle Day, which is very nostalgic.
Nothing
and
wrong
fun.
with that.
I like
That was actually my
popsicles.
favorite flavor.
Cherry was probably my least favorite when it comes to stuff like that. Cherry and grape. I went more for strawberry and the fudgesicles and the orange one, the creamsicles and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, but
that's a whole different
that's not
league.
a popsicle.
So the popsicle, that's the ones I use, or the lemon ones. I like those too. And today is, oh, what a nice day it is today. But for you and I, this is every day. But for everybody else, it's only today. If you don't own one, and maybe don't like them, and I know people that don't, and I still haven't figured it out. Today is National Dog Day today.
Oh.
And I don't have to celebrate National Dog Day on a certain day. It's every day, and I love that it's every day.
We celebrate National Dog Day every day that ends with a Y.
Yep. Even if you make up a day. It doesn't end with a
does
Y.
Monday end with a Y? Yes, that's a
Yes.
dog day. Tuesday.
It is
Wednesday.
National Dog Day today.
Oh, I love my dogs.
And I've noticed when I've met people throughout history of my life, if I met people that hated dogs, I just don't like dogs. I don't like dogs. I wind up not liking them. Not because they don't like dogs, not because I just get to know them kind of. I'm like, oh, I see that you're that kind of person that doesn't like dogs, and the other way that your personality is, I just don't
It's
get
like
with
the
you very well.
flaws are linked.
Yeah.
You've got other flaws
You've
here.
got other problems. So, and I can understand if you're like, I don't care for dogs because I'm allergic to them and I can't do this, I can't do that. But I hate dogs. I'm like, well, why? Because they're just dogs. I'm like, okay, then I'm probably not going to like you. Then
It's like
really
me and
weird.
cats. I don't mind cats.
Yeah,
and if there's
right.
a cat, I'll pet it. If the cat
Sure.
comes up next to me, I'll be like, if it curls up, I'll be like,
We just like animals.
But I don't gravitate toward cats.
No, there's a difference. There's
Whereas,
a difference.
I don't think there's a dog I've ever met that I've been like, oh, I'm taking you home. Like every dog I just love.
They're great. And I love the show. Back when I would watch it, sometimes I'd watch the Cesar Millan show where he would actually come
Dog
out and show
Whisperer.
people that, like, 99.999 times out of 10, or out of 100, it's not the dog, it's you. Mm-hmm. And he'll prove that almost every time. Oh, my dog is terrible. It's a terrible dog, and it's a problem dog. I'm like, it's not the dog's problem. It's not the dog's fault, usually. It's the person's problem. Because either one, they don't know what they're doing. They don't discipline. They don't react properly. Dogs pick up on their nervousness or their personality.
Right.
He will come in and go, oh, no. Caesar's coming, but he's not going to be able to do with anything with this dog. This dog is just not going to. He comes in, within 5 minutes, the dog is usually responding to everything that he's telling the dog to do, showing the parameters, being stern, doing that noise that he does and the point or whatever gets their attention. He knows what he's doing. He is aptly named the Dog Whisperer, and there's a lot of people that can do that. He knows what he's doing. That's why at the end he goes, do not attempt to do what he's doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you might lose a hand.
Teaching a dog to not do something, especially if you're on a leash, because leash training is important.
Sure.
Like if they try to pull or chase and you go, as you you make that noise while you
Get
pull
their
the chain.
attention. Yeah.
Then guess what? When you get them used to it, then you don't have to pull the chain anymore. You just go, and they stop.
Yeah, and they know, oh, he's going to do that. Okay.
It's amazing.
Not
It's like,
supposed to do
oh,
that.
I'm not supposed to do that. You're teaching dogs. Here's the crazy thing: dogs actually want to please you.
Sure.
But if you don't give it any direction, it'll do whatever it wants to make itself happy.
If you don't assert yourself as the dominant figure in the house, the dog will assert itself. That's kind of the way it is.
Yep.
and
That's how
and
they
that's
work.
not because they're mean and they hate you. That's just how it is.
That's what's called a pack
It's kinda
animal.
what it
they,
is.
They move in packs. So you have to have someone who's the leader.
I found, Stacy goes, it's happened again. This was last week. I'm like, what's happened again? Please don't tell me we have another tree down, because I hate that. That's usually what that means. Trees
That's the
committing
worst
suicide on my property. No, she's brought a dead chipmunk to the back steps. I'm like, oh, I said you, and Stacy doesn't like that she does it, but she realizes that is her way of pleasing us and show us that she loves us. She's bringing us something.
Look, you guys
That's
don't look
us.
like you're eating right.
Yeah,
Here we
I'm
go.
bringing you something.
Here's something.
You
I'm
need
going to
this.
contribute to the family.
And you should never scold your dog for bringing a dead animal to your back doorstep or
Nope.
trying to bring, or if they bring it into the house, try to get rid of it in a creative way, but praise the dog for it, because they're doing it. They're not doing it to make you mad.
Right.
They're doing it when you examine the reasons that some of them do what they do. You're like, what other way can they show you? They can't tell you. They can't tell you. Right. They can't speak English. They can understand English, though, a lot, but they can't tell you. They can't say, hey, you know what? I really love you, and I want you to know that. They can't. They do it that way.
Do you like that moment when you go to scratch your dog, and they put one paw up over your arm.
Right.
As if
And
to
that's
say-
called pawing.
and as
That's
if to
another
say-
sign that
say,
I love you.
Hey, I like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Please keep doing that.
Right.
And this is my way of saying I love you
That's
too.
right. Yeah. Hey, are you
Lucy
kidding?
did that to me this morning. I took him outside. I
Yeah.
was like, my wife had to drive me here because she had to use the truck, so she'll be
Yeah.
picking me up later. And I was like, hey, bye, girl. I started to scratch her chest, and all of a sudden, Paul came up. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, hold on. You know I'm leaving. I'll scratch you just a little bit longer.
Even if I'm late, I'll do it. If I'm like, I'm just going to be a little later, I guess.
100%.
No, that's a fantastic. You and I are the dog owners that we'll sit on the couch and I'll have a dog in my lap. You'll have 5, but I just have 1. I have 1 dog in my lap. She's comfortable. She's asleep, but I'm like, I don't want to get up,
right?
Because
I'm
I'll
like,
wake
I
her
gotta
up.
Go to the bathroom.
And somebody says she's not a real human baby. It's not like you're waking up your little boy. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Yes, she is.
Yes, she is.
She
Do
just
you
has
ever get
4
to the
legs
point
and
where
hair.
Do you ever do this happen? You're like in the kitchen, the dog's kind of around. You may accidentally maybe step and kind of bump, or maybe you nip the toes, and you go, and you find yourself apologizing.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, I didn't mean that. I didn't see you there. My dogs know I did not mean to hurt them.
Sure they do. Yeah, I love that.
I hate when I accidentally, like when I'm not paying attention, I'm just moving, or they've kind of snuck in because they're hoping some food drops.
Yeah.
And I end up stepping on a paw, and they go,
You want to turn me? Yeah. You want to turn me into John Wick? Take my dog out, and that would do it for me. I'd probably snap, because think John Wick never would have happened had they not probably taken his little puppy out. Took it
without a doubt. That's the whole.
It's like
I love it. What a premise!
It's a puppy dog that created John Wick's revenge, which I think is
set
great.
him on a path.
Well, anyway, it's National Cherry Popsicle Day and it's National Dog Day.
Oh, that's right. We started with those two.
Here's the third one. I want to try to make these work together.
All right.
And you'll probably understand how I did this. National Cherry Popsicle Day. It's also National Dog Day. Today is also National Toilet Paper Day. Today.
Okay.
Okay, before the advent of toilet paper from at least 79 A.D. until the fall of the Roman Empire, the Romans cleaned themselves with a tersorium, a type of sponge, after relieving themselves. It was made of a sea sponge on a stick, that would simply rinse it off after they were done with it and leave it for the next person. That's what they did in 79 A.D. before we had toilet paper. Man, am I glad we got toilet paper now.
Bigus.
That
You didn't wipe the sponge.
Yeah. So here's how I put them together. So maybe you're eating a cherry popsicle and you drop some. Your dog gets a hold of it and doesn't eat all of it, and it gets on the floor, so you have to wipe it up with toilet paper. There you go. That's how I can link all 3 of them together.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 national days. Today, August the 26th, right here in BK on the air.
You forgot to take your dog out, and through no fault of their own, left you a little present because they held it as long as they could. You go get the toilet paper to pick it up.
Right. But how does the popsicle come in, though? There's 3 of them.
Because you got the popsicle in your mouth, and you're like, "Aw."
Oh, yeah, that'll work. Okay. Probably not as good, but yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
You're eating a popsicle, and you realize, what's that smell?
It's not my popsicle.
It's not
I don't
cherry
think
popsicle.
so.
It better not be my cherry popsicle.
This is a different flavor popsicle.
Wait a
if
minute.
That's the case.
You know, I have not had. You mentioned orange creamsicles. There was creamsicle day the other day.
That's right. It was.
I
forgot. Yeah, you're right.
I love of all the flavors
Aren't
of
they
creamsicle.
great?
The orange creamsicle
With
is the most
white on
magical.
the inside. Yo.
Something about that sort of tart orange with the
Mixture.
creamy, just smooth
Whatever the
vanilla.
heavenly fluff is in the middle. Yeah, it's just, is it vanilla? I don't even know what it is, but
Whatever
you're right.
that combination of that orange creamsicle is the most. There isn't
I
anything better.
have to watch myself to keep from taking a bite out of the stick if I'm not careful. I'm like, oh, I got the stick on that
I
one.
try to savor it, and it's so hard. I find myself just wanting to just another bite, another bite, another bite, another bite.
On a stick.
The sea sponge on a stick.
On a stick.
I knew
Not
who you
to
were
be
doing
compared
there,
with the
senor.
sea sponge on the stick. We're not talking about that. So, yeah, thank goodness for modern day conveniences. Thank goodness for the porcelain convenience of the toilet. All the good stuff. We don't know how good we've got it here from the old days. It's BK on the air.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Yeah.
I'm fed up with scrubbing.
Excuse me, but you need Tidy Bowl. Here.
Oh, it's you, the Tidy Bowl man. Will this help?
Sure. With each flush, Tidy Bowl releases strong cleaners that help keep toilet bowls stain-free.
How do I know Tidy Bowl's cleaning?
The sparkling color tells you that it's working hard. Tidy Bolt's powerful and safe on plumbing.
That's great.
Comes in lemon fresh blue or pine scented green. With Tidy Bolt, you'll scrub less.
Safe on plumbing, too.
Excuse me, what did you have for dinner?
Underdone chicken and an overdrawn bank account.
And then?
Indigestion.
Indigestion, Pepto-Bismol. And what did you have for dinner?
A little of this, a little of that, and a lot of in-laws.
And then?
Indigestion.
Indigestion, Pepto-Bismol. It coats, soothes, relieves.
First the Pac-Man eats through a maze of dots. Then the Pac-Man heads for the corner spot. Then he eats his fill of a power pill. And then all those ghosts turn blue. Boo! And Pac-Man eats them all too.
Have you played Pac-Man? It's the new video computer game everyone's talking about. And naturally, it's from Atari.
Have you played Atari today?
Hey, we're back. It's BK on the air. I played a little spot about the Atari 2600 earlier. I told Alan it was Jack Black in the commercial. He's like, no way.
No, I still don't believe
it was. It's Jack Black in the little Pitfall Harry. I never had Pitfall, the game,
love Pitfall.
but I played it at a friend's
Pitfall
house,
2.
and it sounded like it was fun. But I love it.
So addictive.
The 2600 was I guess I settled for it as a kid. When I went over to my cousin's house who had one after going to the arcade, I was extremely disappointed in the game quality because it was cheap
it's not
home stuff.
Quality,
yeah,
right.
that you'd had to have a big giant machine in your back then to play stuff like that.
I felt that most with Pac-Man.
Yeah, Pac-Man just wasn't.
Like, what is this?
Same premise, but doesn't look right, sound right.
Yeah.
It's slow. It just doesn't act right.
Bang, 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 bang,
now
bang.
the original like Combat, the two tanks, that was kind of fun because you could play it with, I could play with my sister on that. I could play Combat. I could play Breakout, the little Breakout one you had to play with a paddle thing or whatever.
I love the paddle games.
The E.T. game was terrible. Okay, I did get the E.T. game, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
Kroll, based on the movie, the Kroll game for Atari, it was pretty interesting. It wasn't like the arcade game, which was fun. But to me, overall, Atari 2600 was a disappointment, even as a kid. And 5200 came out, it was better. And wasn't there Atari 7800 that came out after that? I thought was actually pretty good.
Idea. I do
and television was much better, too. And usually my friends, my geeky friends, which you would have fallen into that category that had computers, they had computer games that looked great, that looked better than the Atari. So that's great.
I gravitated to the Commodore 64 quickly after the 2600.
The reason that I played that Jack Black spot about the Atari 2600 Pitfall is there's a story out everywhere now, but I just got this particular story here. It says a recreated and modernized Atari 2600 is coming in November of 2023 of this year. The 2600 Plus, it recreates the look, albeit at a smaller size, it says, for the 4-switch Atari 2600 released in 1980 is when the 2600 was released. And it's a lot easier to hook up to a modern TV, by the way. It's been several decades since the Atari 2600 has been a hot-selling video game console during the holiday season, but it might be once again thanks to the launch of the new Atari 2600 in November. Video game developer publisher Playon, Plaion, and Atari, which is, thank goodness, Atari's still around. They've announced that the 2600 Plus, that's how you name things now if it's different or extras. You put the plus at the end of it. Paramount Plus, MGM Plus.
It started with Disney Plus.
Waking Up with Alan Plus.
Yeah, well, that's a separate show.
A modern day, it's the 2600 Plus.
Something.
That's what you should call your podcast. It's a modern day faithful recreation of the classic 4-switch version of the 2600. Atari 2600 Plus builds upon the original machine with what it calls modern quality of life features, including an HDMI out, which is very convenient as anyone who has experienced the challenge of trying to hook up an old Atari 2600 with its old-fashioned switch box to a modern television recognizes
Which
that.
Means they must built in widescreen. It's going to have to adapt the games for if it's HDMI out, it's going to have to be widescreen.
Now, this console is also smaller, designed at an 80% the original size, the actual physical system itself, to to better accommodate today's living spaces.
It's a mini-me.
You don't want it taking up a lot of space, which you don't have anymore. I mean, these widescreen televisions, plasmas, take up the whole thing they're sitting on. That's why I guess it's smaller, unless you got some shelves below it. Now, in addition to reviving the look of the original console, complete with the metal switches and the wood grain panel, the 2600 Plus also includes a faithful replica of the CX40 Plus joystick, which has been recreated with the same size and layout as the original. So they didn't shrink the joystick. I guess they left it the same size. That's always nice when you don't shrink your joystick. The standalone CX40 joystick will retail separately for $24.99. The cartridge slot for the 2600 Plus is backward compatible with hundreds of original games for the Atari 2600
So
and
you still have your cartridges?
the Atari 20 and the Atari 7800. It says so. It'll cover both of them.
Okay,
It says it's backward compatible.
So that means if you still have old cartridges lying
Is
around,
that what that means?
you could
Because
go-
I guess the slot is the same size to put them in there. The
That's-
unit may be smaller.
That's crazy.
That's crazy if you still. I don't have any of them, but I guess
It's
I
just
do.
picks the right end.
But I wonder if you don't have them, if you just buy the unit, are they all built in? I don't know what that means.
I think they're going to have to be cartridges then.
I
if
guess
they're
you have
saying
to buy
that,
separate cartridges. Maybe you can
but
buy
they'll
all of
probably
them.
have cartridges that have multiple games in one.
Right. That's the only. That'd be the because the space now they take up is nothing compared to the way we used to do it.
Remember, once upon a time you could buy like the top 50 sellers within a joystick.
They did
Like, it
that
was
for a
just
while.
the
That's right.
joystick
Yep.
that
So
had the
you
game
know
in
they're
it.
all going to be on one cartridge. But if you happen to have the old ones, yeah, you can still play them.
Could you imagine? Because I think
That's
my
what that
mom
means.
still has our old 2600 somewhere in her basement.
Really? Is she still? I would think she would have thrown that out by now.
No, I don't
Thank
think
goodness
so.
she didn't do that. Now, if you don't have any of these still laying around, here we go. Here's what the last part of the thing says. The 2600 Plus will launch with a cartridge featuring 10 classic arcade 2600 games. Here's what it's going to have. Adventure, Combat, Dodge 'em, Haunted House, Maze Craze, Missile Command, Real Sports Volleyball, Surround, Video Pinball, and Yar's Revenge. There's the ones that'll
love
come
Yar's
back with it.
Revenge.
Yar's Revenge was great.
That was so much fun.
Sold separately is a CX30 paddle controller with a 4-in-1 multi-game cartridge featuring paddle-based titles such as Breakout, Canyon Bomber, Night Diver, and Video Olympics that will retail. That paddle controller will be $39.99. So I guess the controllers are going to be sold separately, it sounds like. Additional launch titles for the 2600 Plus, including cartridges for Berserk, Enhanced Edition, and Mr. Run and Jump will be available in the future.
Mr. Run.
For $29.99. Go to Atari.com to check out more details on that. So there's a little nostalgia come back into our world there. It's
Wow.
Atari.
So I said I would never get a record player. I never want to get a cassette player. You've
But
got
this
my
is-
appetite
This,
wet.
this might be a maybe on this one, right?
A 2600? My wife's like, you're playing World of Warcraft with the most advanced
You're going
graphics
from
with people
you're going
around
from
the world.
Medal of Honor to
And now
to Pac-Man on.
Oh, the Pac-Man sounds were the worst.
Well, they weren't even anything like. They couldn't even reproduce the sounds at all.
No.
I mean, it was terrible. And I don't get me wrong. I was very grateful that my cousin had the system, and I didn't get one. Mom couldn't afford. She was a single parent, so my mom could not afford the most modern things at the time. And back in 1980, if you went to buy an Atari game system in 1980, it was expensive for $1980, and we had to do things like eat, pay our rent, pay our electric bill, have money for school and stuff. And my mom was a hard-working lady, so every now and then we'd get something, but we just wouldn't get the niceties of life. We'd either get the hand-me-downs or had to go over to Cousin Keith's house to play Atari 2600.
Like my cousin
you know?
who was in the middle of a divorced parent, and the
Oh,
dad
really?
was lauding him with gifts just to keep his love.
Oh,
He
great.
had everything.
Wow.
Like, gotta go over to Christopher's house. He's got everything.
Yeah. Which made you want it, and
I was
parents
angry.
like, no, I don't want
Can
you
you guys break up so I get all the money?
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Don't do that. 770-386-1450 is our number if you want to give us a call and check in and talk about what we're talking about or bring up something totally different. That's fine. Someone's on the line now. Hey, it's BK on the air. Hello?
Hey, it's Chance in Atlanta. Hey, fellas. Sorry, 2600. What big screen movie used the sound effects from the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man?
Well, I remember Superman 3 using it.
Yes!
Yeah, when Russ Webster's trying to shoot Superman with his missiles, and he's kind of controlling them with the computer, and it sounds like Pac-Man. I don't know why they did that, because in the movie I'm like, why are they using Atari? I guess it was comedy effect, maybe, because Superman 3 wanted to be a comedy really bad. So, but yeah,
Or
that's
maybe
what I
Atari
remember.
was a sponsor, investor, who knows? But that was strange.
Could have had a Superman game at the time. I don't know. I don't remember that to be a fact. But yeah, you're right. That was they used that, and they were bad. I mean, I was not impressed with the 2600 Atari even as a kid. I liked it, but it just wasn't the arcade. Well, as you heard from the story, it's all coming back. They're going to have it available in November for everybody to get a Christmas present.
That's it. Well, y'all have a great rest of your show. Enjoying
Thank
it.
you. All right. Talk to you later. Bye. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any of it. I mean, anything that, and I was like that as an adult too. When the new cell phones come out, I always got them later. I didn't get that, and you don't either. I mean, you like technology better than anybody else, but we can't have the latest and the greatest, even as adults. We have to wait a little while. Even with streaming services, I couldn't get them all.
Right.
It just makes me appreciate it more. When I was a kid, I certainly appreciated stuff more. Just like you said, you had to go to what's-his-name's house to play it because he had all the toys presented upon him, showered upon him.
House.
That's where I went to play mine.
First time I ever saw the Alien doll. Like, you got the Alien doll?
Yeah, and why did they make an Alien doll for kids for a movie they couldn't even go see?
I don't know. I thought it was cool
That
looking.
was so funny. Speak on the air.
Kenner presents new Alien action figure.
Bayman's glow! Quick, shut the L off! The alien's locked out now! He got through! Shh! Give up! Alien can't be beat! We'll zap him with the light! Don't, he'll destroy the spaceship! We've lost! Better find another ship! Let's try the kitchen! Another triumph for Alien!
Alien action figure. New from Kenner.
You mean you have an Atari video game system, but not Atari Missile Command? Well, then you must have Defender. Great game. Or a challenge like Star Raiders. What about Yar's Revenge? Well, you gotta have Berserk, right? And Atari Space Invaders, a classic. You don't? Come on. An Atari system without those games? That's like having a stereo with no hit records.
Hey, we're back. It's BK on the air. Alan and I talking about Alien here off the air about the first time we saw Alien for some reason and how it shocked us and how maybe I don't know about you and what age you were when you saw it, but I shouldn't have watched it the age I saw it. I shouldn't have seen Jaws the age
There
that
were
I saw
several movies that fall in that category.
But I'm okay now today, and I love both the films.
Jaws, Exorcist,
The
Amityville
Exorcist.
Horror.
Oh, my mom went to see The Exorcist with a friend. Came back home that night, and we're like, "Mom, where'd you go?" Well, I went to a movie with Sandra. I'm like, "Okay, what'd you see?" It's a movie called The Exorcist, and you will never see it. I'm like, "Really? Okay." And she was physically shaken up by it. No one had ever seen anything
Exorcist
like that before.
messed with my head.
I mean, it was. Mrs. BK watched it when she was a young teen, like at 13, I think, on television one night, and or 12 or something, and she just never forgot it. She goes, I had to watch cartoons and stuff after that just to cleanse it out.
Yeah.
She goes, I have to watch something happy afterwards.
Maybe
it's
12
terrible.
or 13. Way too young.
Way too young to watch.
Although on the flip side, we are still here.
Yeah, we are still here. Maybe
that's
that
why,
explains a lot.
Maybe that's why we handled adversity so much better.
It might be.
Our lives were so traumatized. We're like, all right. I still went to school the next day.
Well, it's BK on there. I got a story here from MeTV that I want to talk about concerning a television series, a cop series that starred a beloved actor that usually commanded a starship.
I believe in the old things, you know. Family, friendship, fairness. That's what this country's all about. Taking it to the edge. Laying it all on the line. I watch your tail. You watch mine. I value human life. Hey, we're all on the same side.
T.J. Hooker. He's with you.
T.J. Hooker promo right there from 1984, the year I graduated high school. The story here I have from MeTV is called William Shatner and Censorship with T.J. Hooker. Some of this I didn't know about. Some of you may already know about it.
James Tiberius Hooker.
Shatner breaks down what could and couldn't be done on TV in 1985. Not even Captain Kirk could get away with always doing whatever he wanted. Anybody taking mass media is subject to having their work censored. There's a notable obscenity trial from 1961 called Jacobellis versus Ohio, wherein the Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart described a now infamous threshold for what is and isn't acceptable. Rather than come up with any clear definition of obscurity, Potter wrote, quote, Obscenity. Sorry, you're right. Obscenity. Potter, how can you read that? You don't even have the page, and I have it.
Obscurity. I'm like, I don't think that makes sense.
Thank God you're here. Obscenity. He wrote, quote, I know it when I see it, unquote. And in doing so, set an unfortunate precedent for future censorship. While there are hard limits, there's also a lot of gray area in acceptable content. So much of what's deemed vulgar or unwatchable comes down to the governing body of whoever is entrusted with censorship. So one man's unwatchably violent could be another's T.J. Hooker, here is what we're trying to say. The same discussion regarding inconsistency in censorship was true in the 80s. Specifically, it was a problem William Shatner found himself up against as the star of a few different programs post-Star Trek. T.J. Hooker was broadcasted by two different networks, so his experience on that show made him an expert on network politics, it says. Originally, the show was a primetime show on ABC, but then that channel dropped T.J. Hooker from its schedule. This is one of those rare occasions when that happened. It happened with Wonder Woman, and because Wonder Woman went from ABC to CBS after it was canceled by ABC. T.J. Hooker was then picked up by CBS after it left ABC, who slotted it for later that at night. It had a different time slot. Quote, we found CBS is much more strict in the area of censorship on the amount of violence that can be shown, so we have a much tighter rein on violence than we had at ABC for 8 o'clock. I'm seeing two views on censorship policies. I can say CBS is much more stringent, unquote, Shatner said. He also noted that the change in airtime didn't affect the show's content, whereas ABC's budget for the primetime T.J. Hooker had been around $900,000 per episode. That's back in the early 80s. That's chicken feed now for making a television series, especially a crime drama. CBS slashed the budget when it went to CBS when it shifted the program to late night. It was. T.J. Hooker was shown on late night CBS when it went to CBS. Quote, all the other cop shows are spending well over $1 million, he said, he told the Times-Herald. When you're asked to pare it down, you're really cutting muscle. The basis of an action show is action, so we had to be clever. We had to invent chases instead of car crashes. We had even more character conflict than we did on ABC, unquote. Right. So there's a little history about how things ran on censorship sometimes on television in the day.
Here's the action. Fly over the hood of the car and do a roll. That'll look good.
Instead of running into a building with the car or having a giant car crash, run into a trash truck that just dumped a bunch of cardboard. Yeah. But shoot the cardboard smash in slow motion.
That way we can
make it really cool.
Way we can reuse the car without having to pay for
That's
any
right.
repairs.
We don't have to. We just have to wax the scuff out of the front. So. Yeah, and we were just talking the other day after I'd ran this story by Mrs. BK when we were talking about it, and she goes, yeah, television's changed a lot. I said, yeah, not only – I said, Alan and I went over one day about how much viewing home television is compared to the way it used to be. Streaming now is completely different from trying to adhere your schedule around television. Now television schedules around us, so that's the different way. But the content, things that are acceptable now – T.J. Hooker, you see a rerun of T.J. Hooker now, and you're like, it's lame. That's not violent.
Right.
There's a shot and you kill somebody, but there's no blood. You just the coroner comes, takes him off. That's the end of the episode. That is nothing compared to what's on now. The line is blurred. Mm-hmm. The line is completely blurred. There is really no now when it comes to streaming. But now I have to include network stuff. Now if you don't have any streaming and you still only watch ABC, NBC, or CBS. Sure, it's not very gratuitous and it's not porn, but it's network can get pretty streaming now too. Yeah, there's a lot more language, a lot more violence shown now. Maybe not any nudity, maybe on ABC, CBS, or NBC. But if you were to show just the latest, pick a show today. I don't even know modern network shows. Are the NCI shows still running on network? Some of them, they still have a new one here and there, don't they? Take one of the most modern NCI episodes and go back in time and try to show it on CBS on a Saturday night or present it as a show in the form that it is now just on network. You wouldn't get past anybody to get it on the air. There's no way.
What's the cop drama that like started that whole how far can we push it? The guy that played in Die Hard 2, and then he ended up going to the cop series. He won a bunch of Emmys, but the very first episode
was it David Caruso? Is that
no, it's not. That's that guy. He's got a mustache.
I don't remember who you're talking about.
Somebody knows.
Dennis Franz. Yeah, that's the heavyset guy. Yeah, I know who that is.
And the
what
very
show
first
was he in?
episode,
Hill Street Blues?
No, I forgot the name.
What
of
was he in? I gotta find
look
out.
it up. But the very first episode, like they kind of have the camera push in, and
it was
he's butt naked in the shower,
I remember
and they
that.
see his left butt cheek, and oh my god, and like you can't have that.
Was that the late '80s or the '90s?
And you know what? Everybody decided to go watch it because everybody started talking about it,
and the advertisers loved that.
But the thing is, it was a really well written show. I remember it won a bunch of Emmys, but it really pushed that whole gritty.
Now I got to know what it is. It wasn't NYPD
Dennis
Blue,
Franz,
was it?
It was.
What was it? Dennis Franz.
NYPD Blue. Yeah, that's what it is. I think it's NYPD Blue.
NYPD Blue. But I think that was ABC, but I'm not sure. Is that the one that he?
But I remember that was
on?
that was on every news show that was
that
being
was
talked
NYPD
about on the
Blue,
radio.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, you
big
can't
story.
show that on network television.
It's just butt.
Well, they did.
They did.
Have you ever seen Dennis Franz? I mean,
don't know why you'd show it, but maybe that was the point. We don't want to start out with a nice, gorgeous person. You know, that would we would be found out by.
That might be interesting to ever go back and like binge a show like that, because when it came on, I wasn't interested in that kind of show, so I never watched a single episode. I just knew, ironically, because they manufactured the controversy,
but
I knew about it.
There was a big shift though in television series, especially crime dramas, in the early '80s, because in the '60s, late '60s and '70s, you had cop shows, but there were cop shows that were sort of believable, but they had like these action, it was television. Oh, it's a cop show. There's no way they'd do this as cops, but they could do it.
There's almost always like a moral or a lesson built in.
Then in the early 80s, we got shows come in like Hill Street Blues, which was that first. This is a little more
one,
realistic.
really more gritty.
What was the hospital show? St. Elsewhere came in. So those shows left over from the 70s over into the 80s, like T.J. Hooker. T.J. Hooker was glorified like Adam 12 Starsky and Hutch show. That's kind of what it was. It's an action, it's Aaron Spelling show. That's what it was. So shows like that were kind of being pushed out for these for the Hill Street Blues type things coming in, and that's where it kind of started. Gone were sometimes I just want to watch a cop show and watch him chase down the bad guy and not be too realistic. I mean, if I know it's a show like Hill Street Blues, then I know to expect something different. So, but there's no escapism. Is what I'm trying to say. There's really no many shows. The only escapism that's left are shows like The Simpsons or Family Guy and stuff like that, and they're comedies. So escapism. There's no Gilligan's Island on.
Right.
There's no shows like that, and I guess that shows that we've grown up. I guess as a society and take things more seriously. But I've got my relatives that I talk to sometimes. They sit and they watch every forensic show that's on. The like NCIS, the NCI, the Los Angeles, NCI, California, NCI, Baltimore,
Vegas.
NCI, this, and I'm like, don't you ever get enough of that death and forensic stuff? I know it's fascinating, but they watch all of them, and to me, that's a genre that I think is interesting, but I have no desire to watch it.
Of all those kinds of shows, I was hooked on Bones for a while because Bones was a fun show where they were trying to solve the murder from the. And I love the pathology of just from that perspective.
Right.
What created the injury and how did this person die? How long were they dead? But I loved it. And I knew it was based off a series of books, but even that kind of after about 7 seasons, I'm like, you're running out of stuff to show me. Right.
But after a while, that was the bulk of the shows that were on. Every network had their forensic show. It was about forensics, and I'm like, okay, you can solve crimes. I know that, and we didn't have this back in the old days, and stuff. And I do remember a certain Dragnet episode from the '60s where they actually run into a cop who was an older guy who wasn't a cop anymore in the '60s, but he was a cop in the early '40s. And he goes, "You guys and your newfangled way of doing things like forensics and microscopes and scientists." He goes, "Back in the late '30s when we were policemen, we had one thing going for us, and that was our hunches and our instinct." And he goes, "That's how we had to solve crimes, and we weren't always right, and we couldn't always do it." So technology certainly has changed, and so has viewing movies.
But there is an element which I do like and they explored it in Strange New Worlds, is sometimes you can't go just by cold logic and reason either.
Right, and I like that.
That intuitive part of humanity sometimes serves us well.
Yeah.
And I love when they made Spock take a guess.
Well, they did that in Star Trek 4. That's where they first did it, but that was funny, yeah.
They did that, but I mean, well, what's your best hunch or something? He goes, I don't. He goes, well, you're half human.
My whole show is based on hunches. We'll turn it into a
I got
podcast.
a hunch we're done.
We'll see you on the podcast. We are done. Speak on the air.